Interesting. And just sort of from a historical perspective, when Star Wars, 83 was when it was first shown on PBS, right?
I think in the winter of 84.
84.
Yeah,
83 was when you made it then.
We finished it in 83.
I remember it was 1984.
By the way,
Yeah.
Demer,
ran home from
Demer here
Boston
can
to go
quote
see
every
it.
line from this.
Yeah, there was no graffiti done that night in New York City. There were no trains bombed at all that night because everybody was home watching Star Wars. So
That's right. That's
that was 1984. Yeah.
I was one back then. Wow.
So you were sort of,
Serious.
so Henry, you were working then simultaneously with Tony Silver and Martha on all these
Yes.
different projects.
Yeah, yeah. We started. Tony and I started in 1981 to make Style Wars, and Martha and I went to the Frankfurt Book Fair in 1982, and that's where we were able to get the book deal.
Yeah, now that's interesting because, of course, back then New York was a different place, and graffiti certainly wasn't treated. It was treated by the artists themselves, but nobody else thought much of it, right?
Well, there was a whole bunch of people who did, because already there were little galleries springing up in Lower Manhattan, and also up in the Bronx there was Fashion Moda. So this was already in 1981, 1982. There was a kind of mix going on between downtown artists, you know, Euro artists, and local neighborhood artists who were generally graffiti writers, and other people too.
Yeah.
But that's when the writers got together. There were places like the Fun Gallery and well, downtown, and that was a big hangout. And it was quite wonderful because you'd have the sort of glittery downtown scene and these kids from all over the city coming from all 5 boroughs to hang out together. And it was quite interesting. I think there was a lot of learning going on from both ways.
And what was the experience for trying to get the book published? Was it easy? Was it quite? Did you meet a lot of obstacles?
Big obstacles. I mean, basically no. I mean, we tried, both Martha and I tried separately and together to get book deals in New York.
Because you went to publishing houses that would have done art books?
Yeah, yeah. We looked through we went to the bookstores, found art books, said, okay, this would be a good try. So we found several different publishers and went and had meetings with them, and they all said no. And for various excuses, but I think it was basically they didn't want to be involved in something that was so unpopular, because it was quite unpopular at the higher up you got in the echelons of culture, to the board of directors of the Museum of Modern Art, then it got worse and worse.
And it's interesting because you met the same kind of parallel obstacles with getting Star Wars on too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that was the climate of the times, because when we were applying for grants, it was the early Reagan years, and Reagan had appointed William Bennett of gambling fame to the National Endowment of the Humanities, and he X'd it, he flagged it. The panel loved it, and they wanted to fund it right away. And because he was the chairman, they said it's not going to work, it's not going to fly.
Yeah.
And they didn't even propose it to him.
Well, ironically, the book has sold something like 500,000 copies over the years.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the impact it's had. Did you ever think, or when you were doing it, were you thinking, oh, this is just sort of like a little New York thing, since it really wasn't happening anywhere else?
Well, not only that, I mean, we were told, and Martha, who was a pro, said, we'd be lucky if we sell 1,000 of these. But we really want to have it, because then we have it in our hands, a book.
A document.
So I said, yeah, and so that was sort of the general idea. They published 3,000 to begin with, and then they just published it in small increments over the years after that. But they were taken by surprise. It put Thames and Hudson in a category that they'd never worked in before, which was the trade paperbacks. And, now it's a big moneymaker for them, that whole area, not just our book.
And now this time out, for the 25-year edition, it's Chronicle Books, which is from San Francisco, right?
Chronicle Books from San Francisco is doing it here. It's Thames and Hudson
are
doing it in Europe, and they sold it to Chronicle Books here.
Yeah. So many people have gotten the book and were influenced by it. I'm sure that you've heard from them over the years. They've written to you, right? Or met them?
Yeah. Well, right away I started getting letters. That's why I did spray can art afterwards, because I got letters from all around the country.
And were you, with that book, the follow-up, were you the first person to use that expression, spray can art? Or did people use that loosely before?
I think it was loosely used before, as was aerosol art.
Yeah.
I mean, even then there's a mural in the book that says aerosol art. We contemplated using aerosol art, but we liked spray can art better.
Yeah.
It sounded less kind of, I don't know, technical.
But that book came about due to the strong response you got from people?
That came about because I was getting letters, and I thought this could be another book. And Jim Prigoff, who'd been urging me to join with him and do, because
He's done a lot of books, right?
he did a lot of
Done-
mural
Mural
basically,
books, okay.
mural books, and he wanted to do something on the walls, and I said, I don't know what the, it's not as interesting as trains, right? But then when I started getting these letters, I said, hey Jim, this is the angle. We're getting these things from all over, and let's go and do the book.
Yeah.